looking at the area and perimeter of a triangle using trigonometry. And if you're given a side, just one side, and one angle, and a right angle as well, then you can use trigonometry to solve your problem here, or to work out all the other sides, all the unknown other sides here. And in fact, we do need to work out the other sides, because to work out the perimeter, we're going to have to find out this side over here, and we're going to also have to find out this side over here. We need every single side here to work out the perimeter, and you add them up together, obviously, to work that out. But first of all, we're going to figure out what those unknown sides are. Well, I think we'll start with this one at the very top here, and we'll figure that out. So we're labeling both sides, B and D, to begin with, and B is labeled as such. You don't have to label that as B. You could call it anything you like, call it X and Y if you want. I try to avoid labeling them A and H or O or anything like that, because, well, for one, O actually it looks like a naught, looks like a 0, and B, instead of A, I didn't use A because that looks like the adjacent. Now that'll just confuse things. In trigonometry, we use the letter A, we use the letter H for hypotenuse, and we use the letter O for opposite, so we don't want to use those particular letters. Alright, now go over here and we'll see how we've labelled everything. Now, because I'm trying to figure out this unknown letter B here, and I'm just focusing in on working out what B is, I have left this other side blank. I know you could have labelled it in there as D, but it's irrelevant at the moment. We don't really want to do anything with it. So we do not put any of these big letters that I put in here, A and O. You don't put any extra big letter over here yet, because we're not trying to figure out that side. Okay, I labelled it earlier on because it's something I'm trying to figure out as D, but I'm not really trying to figure out right at this moment. It's not relevant. I'm just trying to figure out what D is at the moment. So what B is at the moment, sorry. So B can be labelled as adjacent. Adjacent means the side that is right next to the angle that is given, and so long as it's not the longest side, it's the adjacent. O is the opposite, is completely opposite the 31 degrees. You could think of a bow and arrow, shooting an arrow across from the 31 degrees, and it goes directly to the opposite side over here. It's 5 meters over here. Now we've got an A and an O, and we use these letters that we put in here to figure out whether we're going to use SO, KA or TOA. Now if you had a third letter here would be H, hypotenuse, which is the longest side. Don't put it in there. Don't label all three sides. Please don't do that, because if you do that, you're not going to be able to figure out whether to use SO, KA or TOA. We only want two letters here, and they're two relevant letters. We've got the given side and the one that we're trying to figure out at the moment, which is our B. They're the relevant ones. So we've got A and O. Which one of these has A and O in it? SO, KA or TOA. The only one of these, SO, KA or TOA, that have O and A is TOA. O and A. Notice that SO has the O but not the A, KA has the A but not the O, TOA has the O and the A. We use the TOA. And the way of remembering this as a mnemonic, because you have to remember the whole thing, is a good way of remembering. I remember as SOK A TOE. SOK A TOA. So you think of putting a sock over your big toe, maybe something like that. SOK A TOA. You think of another way of remembering it if you want to. You don't have to do it that way, but that's the way I remember the word SOK A TOA. Now next step, after we've figured out we're going to use TOA, we're going to only use TOA here because of the O and the A, which we've labelled the O and the A, so we're now going to use TOA. Now what you do now is you hide the side that you're trying to figure out. Now we're trying to figure out our B, which is our adjacent, our A, and we just ignore that A there, and we've then left with this green bit. Now I've highlighted it in green, highlighted it before doing this, so you can see clearly that after we get rid of the unknown there, even though we're trying to figure out what B is, which is our A as well, we're trying to figure that out, but you cover it up and we don't use it. We just got the O and the T. So O is 5 meters, so you write down 5. We're trying to work out what B is. You just look at this little bit here, 5 over 10, 31 at the moment. And so according to our magic formula, we cover up the times A, we've got O over T. So O is 5 over tan. T stands for tan. So on your calculator you've got sine, cos and tan, and after the sine, cos of tan you have to have the degrees here, the angle, the tan 31. Alright, so don't put your side 5 there and don't put the angle at the top. Angles only make sense in trigonometry if they come after sine, cos or tan. In this case we're using tan, and then if you put that into your calculator you'll end up with 8.321. If your calculator does not have a fraction symbol there, you can just simply enter in 5 divided by tan 31, which is the same thing. Take an extra decimal place at least in order to ensure that your final answer is accurate. Now you have to have extra decimal places when trying to work out the intermediate steps, and then in your final answer, I'll show you over here, we take 2dp. It's an ideal thing is 2dp, but extra decimal places to make sure that is accurate. So what we will do is, now we've figured out what B is, in the same way we can work out what D is. Now I'm just hiding, you don't have to delete it really, but just ignore the B because we don't want to deal with B at the moment. We're not using that, not using any of the side. Well, not using that side at the moment. We're not going to use the number that we worked out for that one. We're just going to use the 5 and the 31 in order to work out D, which is relevant at the moment. So ignore the other little bit, don't label it. We simply label the things that are relevant at the moment when we're working out D. So O is the opposite to 31, which is a 5 once again, but this is our longest side, our hypotenuse, which gets labelled H. And then we're going to figure out where we're using soka or toa, and we're using so, because we've got O and H, and so is the only one that has the O and the H in it. And once again, if we could actually, if we're trying to say figure out, it's not always like this with the fraction, the O over here. Sometimes it's times, mind you. If your unknown letter was actually here, right here where the 5 is, that mean our O would be unknown. You would then blank out this one here and just cover it up, and you'd have sine of the angle times hypotenuse, right? But we haven't got that. We've got our unknown letter here. D is our H, and when D is our H here, we can cover up our H including the times. We're left with O over S. So D, which we're trying to work out, is equal to our O over our S. Our O is 5 and our S is sine of the angle again 31. Put it into a calculator and you'll end up with 9.708 meters. Take an extra decimal place at least or more to ensure that your final answers are accurate. Perimeter is just a matter of adding all of those numbers together, and you will get 23.03 meters all the way around. Area again is looking at the it's nothing to do with the sides that are given or whatever. You just got to look at what the two shorter sides were, the two sides that are next to the right angle. Okay, so ignore the other one. 5 times the other side there, and we worked that out to be our B value, which is 8.321. So 5 times 8.321 or 8.321 times 5, either way around, doesn't matter. You're multiplying the two shorter sides and you're dividing by 2, and we get 20.80. You just check to see whether that kind of makes sense or not. We've got approximately 8 times 5, which is 40, divided by 2 is about 20, so yes, it looks like it probably was correct, and we entered it correctly into the calculator, right? So that's working out our area. The next thing to do is our similar sides, triangles with similar sides, but we'll leave it until the next video.